since it is
5:02.
5:02. So if you want to start us, I'll wait about 5 seconds and then go. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Westborough Board of Selectmen meeting called this Thursday, June 18th, 2020. Just want to read a statement as we're meeting virtually here. That pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Westborough Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. And also a reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by turning to Westborough TV's government channels, Verizon Channel 28 or Charter 192, or streaming online at westboroughTV.org with a live stream, live-stream-government link. So great. So for our agenda tonight, we have 4 things for open session, and we will have the need for executive session tonight. It's really quickly on the agenda. It's discussion vote on applications for alteration of premises for outdoor dining, which I don't believe we have any, so we won't be acting on that. Discussion on the budget and warrant as needed. Discussion on annual town meeting, and then discussion vote on the request to place flags on the Rotary for July 4th as a follow-up to our last meeting, and then an executive session to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate for 3133 Eli Whitney Street and 56 Eli Whitney Street. And we will be, as I said, entering to an executive session. Post that, we will not be rejoining the meeting in open session. So as we go into executive session, that will be the adjournment of our open session. So as I said, we had no applications for outdoor dining alteration of premises. So we'll skip forward to budget warrant discussions. Christy, stuff from your side, please.
Sure. So I sent the board, I sent out all the list of speakers. So anything that's in yellow is a Board of Selectmen motion that you'll be making. Anything that is in blue is intended to be passed over, but if someone were to take that out of, or want to take that up at the regular time, then I left those on there so that you know who would speak. And I think there's only the one for the Board of Selectmen, which is the request to fund the internship. And so I also sent you some notes on each of the articles. So if you have any questions about that, or if you want to talk at all about what you've been assigned, now could be the time to do it. Otherwise you could take it up at town meeting. Does anyone have any questions about what I sent out?
Chrissy, will you be giving us hard copies at the thing, at the meeting?
I can, yep.
Thank you.
I did include in some of your articles where there were sections. I think Syed has Alan has capital planning article. Syed has the regular recurring. Both of those have sections that are intended to be passed over. So I gave you sort of 2 versions. One has yellow on it that you may or may not need depending on that first vote. So I think John's intention and the way I sent it is that we'll take up that motion to pass over at the beginning of the meeting. And so you'll know whether or not you'll need to talk about those items at a different time. The other thing I just sent out, we received notification yesterday that the dispatchers union voted to ratify the contract based on the items that we had discussed before. And so I don't have on the agenda for you to vote to approve it, but you have taken the votes in executive session. So we will have that on your Tuesday agenda, but in order to keep moving forward, we've actually sent out amended motions to increase the fire department budget by $20,000, which is that 2% in the second year of the contract. And so therefore, we have also requested that the motion increase the use of free cash by 20,000. So it would keep you at that 457 increase.
Great. So it looks like Alan has a question.
So are we going to be posting a meeting prior to town meeting for any last minute discussions at 11 or 11:30 on Saturday, where we might be able to take this up before town meeting?
Yeah, typically we did, but unfortunately we didn't get a posting in time, so we can't post it now. So we don't have an open meeting posted before town meeting.
Okay.
So apologies for that.
So, Anne, then if we have any deliberations we want to make during the meeting, how do we do that?
You can make deliberation during town meeting. You just wouldn't have your separate meeting prior to the start of town meeting.
Okay, so even though we aren't in a Board of Selectmen open session, we can vote as a board on something
Right.
in the middle of town meeting and say the board just agreed to.
Right, because we're in an open meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's you would vote on items that are before town meeting. So you wouldn't be able to take up executing the contract. But tonight, because you have on your agenda the budget and warrants, I would like the board to vote on the amended fire department budget, which would be that $20,000 increase.
Someone want to make a motion on that?
Sure.
In the
I
salary,
move.
sorry,
Pardon?
that's in salary and wages line.
Okay, so I move that we increase the fire department salary and wages line by $20,000 to satisfy the requirements of the contract with the fire police dispatchers.
I'll
Emery
second.
seconds that.
Oh, Emery got it.
Okay. Any further discussion on that piece? Okay, if not, roll call vote. Selectman Hashmi,
Yes.
Selectman Edinburgh,
Yes.
Selectman Marshall,
Yes.
Selectman Emery.
Yes, and great job, Christy, and everybody involved.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Agreed. Selectman Johnson, yes. So 5-0, 5 being present. And Christy, I don't think we have to vote on the increase in free cash, or do we?
No, I don't think
It's
you'd
a
vote on.
funding mechanism, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a funding mechanism. So, so it's just, I think, I'll just say it again that, the increase is going to be offset by an increase in the free cash that we would be using, which still keeps us, over $10 million in free cash, and keeps the estimated increase of the average single family the same as prior COVID.
Great. Anything else in terms of articles or budgets at this point from any of the board members? Okay, if not, I'll move us to the next thing related, but discussion annual town meeting. We do have the town moderator, John Arnold, on the phone, and this is really a follow-up to discussion we had Tuesday in our joint meeting with the Board of Health, and with discussion or request to look at potential for having a area outside of town hall as a potential venue for those that wanted it to utilize that way of attending town meeting.
You meant outside the high school, not that.
Yeah.
Yes, outside the high school, sorry. So work was done. Hopefully folks saw it. I did share it yesterday, the work that had come through, some work that Dr. Walsh from the chair of the Board of Health and John had done in terms of walkthrough. Christy resent it today because I had sent it through the Board of Selectmen website. I'm not sure that everyone got it. I'll let John talk about it a little bit if folks want. I'll give you, I use my chairman's prerogative here. I think in looking at the forecast for this coming Saturday, I guess I have quite a few concerns about hosting the folks outside. It looks like a close to 90 degree, if not above 90 degrees and humid day, while there is some shade available. I am concerned about those pieces. I think the other part, there is some additional challenges that come with outdoors. There's probably some additional costs in terms of police presence to ensure that we only have voters there. One of the options, if we did it, I think was discussed in the picnic area outside the cafeteria. I think the remarks were that the deputy moderator and deputy clerk would most likely have to be out in the sun for the whole time period, allowing residents to be undercover as much as possible. But to get maximum capacity, we couldn't just do it in that area. We'd move them out, it sounded like, to the lawn and all that. So maybe, John, I probably overspoke what I did. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, plus the second area that was looked into, and any thoughts, I guess, that you may have there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm mostly here to answer questions. As I've said all along, I'll hold the meeting wherever the consensus wants to have it. Nathan, I went down and took pictures. Nathan did a more detailed walkthrough. In terms of the sort of the third overflow location, the number of people that would fit outside in the area that we could probably rope off or barrel off is not really that many more than in the band room, which is bigger than which we found, which was the classroom that we had originally looked at. So to me, it looks like the decision is between outdoors or the band room. I will mention that the band room has a relatively high ceiling and has a whole wall of windows that can be opened. And I think it holds about 30 people socially distanced, not counting the deputy moderator and town clerk. And I think that Nathan's, I don't have the thing up in front of me.
I think it was 34, 36.
Yeah, I think Nathan's count for outside, again, assuming that some people, again, because of the social distancing, the number of people that would actually fit under the overhang is very limited, because that's really only like one seat's worth wide. And then the other people there'd be essentially 2 or 3 rows that would not necessarily be undercover, and some would be beyond the little the decorative sort of wall. So I don't think there's a big difference in terms of capacity. And I know in terms of and I think some of the comments received from the high school or AV folks were that because of the potential sun and we can only get so big a monitor out there, seeing any sort of presentation from the high school would be from the gym in terms of projecting the presentations and motions would be very small and potentially washed out and hard to see. And so again, I'll leave it up to you people. Probably hear a lot more about how many people we think are affected than I do, and what you think the best is. So I'll mostly defer and answer questions, other than to say it looks to me like the Fisher Gym and the auditorium plans are go as is, and the decision is really down to, for our third space, or whether we want to use the band room or the outdoor room in terms of assuming we meet on Saturday.
And John, a question for you, just open up to the board for questions, comments. Did I understand correctly that the band room is air conditioned as well?
I actually don't recall if it's air conditioned. I don't know. I don't know if most classrooms in the high school are air conditioned or not.
But it has windows.
Yes, it has. It's essentially, it faces out overlooking the athletic field. So its entire rear wall is windows, and it looked like there were the small rectangular open windows, windows that can push open on that. I certainly it didn't feel air conditioned when we visited on Tuesday or whenever it was. But then again, school was closed. I don't know if they had it turned on or not. So I'll defer if anyone else knows if it's air conditioned or not.
And actually, where that location is close to the side door of where you exit the auditorium up those stairs, I believe.
Yes. It's on that back hallway behind the auditorium, behind the stage. Yeah.
And close to the single bathrooms as well.
Yes, though I think there was some discussion about, just in terms of keeping things clean, of just actually asking people to use the normal bathrooms. So the custodians would just have to watch one set of bathrooms to clean as often as they could.
Okay. Great. I will open up to the board for comments or questions of John.
So I'm the one who suggested we look at an outside location on Tuesday night. I also drove down there. There's much less shaded area than I thought there was. Also thinking about, even if we were to get, a large screen, something 75 or 95 inches, across, to put that under the shade, you've got posts, large brick columns that would leave the vast majority of the people unable to see any screen that you might put under the overhang in the shade, so it was visible. So knowing that the seating capacity outside is not going to be, significantly different in number or in quality from the band room, I'm very comfortable using the band room as the third location.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Lee has a comment. I see her hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. I can't imagine having the moderator and the town clerk the most distant from the largest number of people, but having to put them outside just wouldn't make any sense.
Well, sorry, I might have misspoken. It would be a deputy moderator and deputy clerk, because we're going to have those in the three, whatever three areas we have.
Okay.
But the town clerk and town moderator will be in Fisher Gymnasium, where the majority of people will be.
Thank you. I must have misunderstood you.
But I might have misspoken. No problem.
Ian?
Yes.
So I'm just speaking as a selectman right now, okay? So just to be clear. John, I apologize when you were having a meeting with the Board of Health. I apologize. I didn't think about it after it only occurred to me after we hung up. But my concern is, are we planning on having one continuous sitting? Because I one of the things that I had suggested to the board, and I know it's going to make more work for Wendy, is can we stagger it potentially? And would that, I don't know if it's worthwhile talking to the Board of Health to, is it possible, I mean, is it allowing people to go out, come in, would that generate more mixing or less?
Well, I'll tell you.
You understand what I'm getting at, right? Instead of us all being...
Yep, I understand what you're getting at. For me, I'll tell you, the plan was that we start at noon and we don't stop until we're either done or somebody passes a motion to adjourn or motion to recess. And the reason for that, even though it might be uncomfortable, is twofold. First of all, the plan that Nathan sort of helped draw up, there should be aisles for people to get in and out to go to the bathroom or to go outside if they want, that are sufficiently wide. So it shouldn't be any worse than having to quickly walk past someone, in a store aisle where, if you want to, you hold your breath, you're supposed to have your mask on, and you walk out and you come in, and you should be able to, walk the perimeter and stay 6 feet away. But if you do, it will be a very glancing blow. And the reason for not sort of breaking it up is that my belief is that all of the recommendations I've seen say that if we're going to empty the room and have it, whether people would know exactly where to go back to, we really would have to stop and we should sanitize the room, or at least clean off all the chairs. And just the unload time, since we're going to try to load the rooms from the front that go back, so there's as few people during the load-in process that walk by another person, is minimum. It would take time to unload and load out. So my actual hope is that it won't take more than 3 or 4 hours if people understand the rationale for passing over the article. So obviously it could go much longer. It will depend on how much the voters want to deliberate. But I think the time it would take to unload, clean, and reload, we wouldn't get more than 2 sessions in on Saturday, and then they even have to come back on Monday.
Okay.
So that was the theory. The theory is it's really not that much worse for people to individually try to choose an opportune moment when they can sort of walk the edge of the 6 to 7 foot radius and go to the bathroom or go out to their car, and then come back in carefully. And that would really not do any more harm than hoping that people would be patient to unload and reload in the same sort of measured manner.
Okay, and then the other question, sorry, Ian, is it okay if I ask a couple of more questions?
Absolutely, you have the floor.
All right, and John, then are you going to make some sort of statement at the beginning of the meeting, or like if you have a fever or temperature or a cough or have been exposed, are you going to how are we going to? Are we allowed to communicate? Hey, listen, if you think you've been exposed, if you or just like the stuff you go, like if you have a temperature or whatever, like the warning signs of COVID, are we going to discuss that at all, or we can't because it's a public meeting?
I don't. All I know is the advice that I've seen from the Mass Department of Public Health and various webinars by people who are doing municipal law is you, as a voting rights, you can't stop people. You can encourage people to think twice about if they have a fever. By the time people are seated, I would feel awkward if somebody like just happened to get a call from a family member or had to go to the bathroom, and right when I say, if you think you've been exposed, you should leave, and then they get up and leave. But it might not be a bad idea. I don't know if Steve or somebody, if we got a volunteer to stand outside at the line and just ask people in line to essentially, not for us to make the statement, but just to tell them the Mass Department of Public Health guidelines for town meetings is that people who feel they might be exposed are encouraged to think twice about it and let people
maybe
make
we
the
can
call.
maybe we can have a sign like where Wendy's staff is checking in, but hey, if you think you've been exposed,
or hang it on the door where we're hoping people will wait so they don't go inside first, might be good. So.
okay.
The state has issued templates for all of that. They're available online. You've probably seen them in every store. I think if they're posted at the doors and they're posted as people are entering, to me, that sort of should be self-explanatory at this point.
So Chrissy,
Okay,
I don't know if
somebody
it's
could
possible to do that. Can we get those, whatever those signs are, and get them on the doors? Would that?
Yeah, I was going to say, if somebody could send me a link to those signs between Wendy and I, we'll make sure we get them printed and hung on the doors before people show up on Saturday.
And then the last thing is from, again, I'm just speaking as an individual selectman and not as a member of the Board of Health, with regards to, if, God forbid, and I hope this does not happen, if, God forbid, that we do have an infection, the easiest way we're going to be able to track that is do contact tracing. And so the question is, if we're all going to be sitting next to each other, is it worthwhile asking who you're sitting next to? Because that's the only way we're going to be able to track who got sick where and know where they were sitting. So I don't know if that is allowed, not allowed. Should we be encouraging people to do that?
Well,
if it's somebody sick, do we? Go ahead, Shelby. Sorry.
No, I mean, when we're checking in, the town clerk staff is verifying, right? Like your street address and giving you the piece of
paper.
paper.
Who checked into town meeting? I think in terms of knowing who your proximity to. Yeah.
Now, who you're sitting next to, like, for instance, if I get sick and I'm sitting next to you, Shelby, there should be a record that I was sitting next to you and I was sitting between you and, Ian was like whatever.
My belief is in a perfect world, that would be great, but it's really hard to do in practice. And it could be that potentially we could rely on, some Westborough TV footage of the room just to try to figure out who was where once we knew who it was. I would not want to risk people panicking by putting all this detail and making people think.
I just
making people think the town meeting isn't safe, because I think one of the things we want to reinforce is that the Board of Health has sort of concurred that we've met all the guidelines that are recommended by the state, and that we have every reason to believe it's a safe meeting. And to me, it would be no different than if I was standing in line at a store. I wouldn't necessarily know the name of the person next to me, and I would just hope we could figure it out.
Or sitting at a table, at an outside restaurant. I don't know that we're required to get the names of who sits next to me.
Right, but the difference is, Ian, that you're not going to be sitting with them for like 6 hours potentially. That's the difference. But
I think that isn't the guidance that it's anytime over 15 minutes from a contact tracing.
Yeah, and I think it's incumbent on anybody at town meeting, if they're sitting next to somebody, just to be social and say, hi, I'm Lee Emery. I haven't met you before. Glad you're at town meeting. And the other person can say, oh, I'm Hazel Nurse. Yeah. You just have social relationships with people.
I guess I could ask for, as people are getting seated, because, it's going to be a little slower because of the whole seating thing. I could just ask for people to introduce themselves to their neighbors without getting close and hope people remember names. That's actually a good idea, Lee. Yeah, just sort of make it a social thing. Yeah.
I can guarantee you I'll forget the name.
Yeah, me too. You do what you can do.
Ian, that worries me, because the board is supposed to be sitting close to each other.
Oh, come on, Noah. I'll remember you.
I
Shelby,
guess I would,
Shelby, do you have questions or
I
comments?
think that if we can utilize the technology of, through Westborough TV, of kind of panning the audience, I think if there were to be some sort of situation after the fact and contact tracing were to happen, then between the check-in and check-out process, or not check-out, the check-in process, the Board of Health would have the capability to, fulfill their mission of contact tracing. I mean, I think it's socially lovely to say hi and who are you and nice to meet you and all that, but I think personally, I think we're kind of getting a little deep in the weeds here.
Okay, just looking at time too, and I think it's our 23rd meeting this week. I think really what we were looking for is John was looking for guidance. I did hear Alan. I guess I would entertain a motion, maybe, or if we want to take a motion, or it could just be an indication to John. And I mean, it's really not I think John is looking for guidance from us versus it's his decision to make, but I think he is looking for guidance here from the board.
Well, traditionally the selectmen name the date, time, and place. I only followed along with your original because part of my declaration to postpone, I had to do it. So I really think it's sort of like, I think we should just reach consensus of what we all believe, and that way we sort of all take some ownership of, we realize that there is no perfect solution. So.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, to what Alan said, and I said it before, I mean, I think you've heard from two of us that the recommendation is go to kind of what I'll call the original, which is the all inside, but utilizing the band room as that third venue.
I'll make that motion to keep the third room as an inside location.
I'll second that motion. Emery?
Okay, so it sounds like we're going to vote on it, so that's fine.
I'm sorry, is that why you're shaking your head? We don't need a motion?
I don't think we do, but that's fine. I don't think we do. If you guys are in agreement, I don't think we actually need a formal motion.
Okay, sorry.
I think we're all in agreement.
Never heard.
But if the motion's there, I don't mind taking a vote, but it sounds to me like we have consensus here.
Ian?
Yep.
So just as are we going to be releasing some sort of statement saying that we have reviewed all the possible options, or I don't know if it's Art or John, we reviewed all the possible options, we and put in measures to whatever. We're going to be releasing some sort of a statement along those lines, like tomorrow or something.
Chief Purcell is doing a code red, and while he's on vacation, and he is going to be reading what John Arnold posted on the town website.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would add too that John was kind enough to work with Mark Stockman to update the town's website to talk about all the precautions that have been put in place and provide some visuals and all of that. So I feel like we have, through all of these meetings, amply more than covered that.
I just want to add that I was waiting to finalize it for this meeting tonight to see what happened, but I was going to do a third draft of our plan as well as the capacity after I saw what our choices were. And I'm adding a one-page executive summary of sort of the changes that I'll mention the, casual, and I'll mention, the water. And I was going to have that done and try to get Mark Stockman to send out just the first page details as a link with just to get that the basic information out there, and then put the full plans, the updated full plans on the website. And perhaps once I get those sent to Christy and people later tonight, maybe Chief Purcell could refer to that in the code red that goes out tomorrow.
So he was actually going to do it tonight, and he already has it. So I mean, I can try to catch him, but like I said, he's
no, that's fine. No, if you just say that by tomorrow, there will be the updated plans and a summary, and then I'll work with Wendy or you, Christy, that the sort of executive summary of the plan, I was thinking would more be maybe a one-page handout to be put in the bags of material. So while people are sitting and getting ready, And not that I'm going to brag or anything, but I also got an idea from another moderator. And tonight I'm going to go to BJ's. I'm going to buy 320 bottles of water. And as voters get their voting slip and as department heads check in, I'm going to have each voter be given a bottle of water because I'm assuming a number of people won't know they could have brought it. So it's the least I can do for the voters to show up, and it's not that much
That's
money.
nice.
So I just decided to do that rather than figure out how to do it. So
John,
Very
thank you.
good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think you have our consensus
Okay.
to the 3 indoor rooms, and
Okay.
thank you for that.
Okay. And one final thing, I'll let you get going, just so you think we're not alone. We do realize a lot of the publicity in the papers has been all about outdoor town meetings, but I did see a report, although the town is smaller than us, the town of Plimpton last night did do an indoor town meeting. It's a smaller town. They split it in 2 halls so people could be socially distanced. So just if people think like, hey, you're the only ones, well, we're not the only ones. It's just that outdoors is a novelty, and that seems to be getting all the press. So just wanted to add that as well.
Perfect.
Okay. Barring that, I'll see you on Saturday. If anything else comes up, somebody call, text me, or whatever. And Christy, I'll get you you and Mark the updated stuff later tonight.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thanks, John.
you. Thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is the discussion vote, the request to place flags on the Rotary for July 4th. I did see earlier John Gallina on here, if he still is.
He's there.
Yep, I see him still here. So this was in related to the request that was made and then the vote that was taken in concern about kind of what that would do. So without saying more, John, I'd love to allow you to speak on behalf of what you're looking to do.
Well, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address the Board of Selectmen. We did have a Zoom meeting this morning, and we had a discussion about the flags on the Rotary. And the purpose is to celebrate the July 4th period. We thought it would be really uplifting for the community to have that kind of a display. When we did it on Veterans Day, we got tremendous feedback on it, how positive it was, and so on and so forth. My understanding is at the last meeting, the Board of Selectmen modified my request to just put the flags in 2 quadrants on the Rotary. And my feeling and the Veterans Advisory Board position was that it would look like an incomplete job to just have flags on one half. What I'm suggesting tonight, if you would respectfully consider it, is that we would create a 3-foot, maybe a 4-foot perimeter all around the Rotary, and the flags would be on the inside so that anyone that potentially is holding a demonstration, as they are doing this past week, they would have space on the grass to stand, hold their signs, etc., and the flags would be in a circle behind them with like a 3 to 4 foot area of grass that would be, there would be no flags there. I think it would look more complete if we handled it that way. So that's what we're asking, is to modify what was voted on last week and allow us to place the flags on the Rotary, and with the understanding there would be at minimum a 3-foot perimeter of grass available to anybody that is, out there making messages, protesting, whatever their interest is.
Thank you. John. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate you coming. I think I'll open it up to Lee. Looks like she has a comment or a question.
Yes, thank you, John, for coming up with an alternative resolution. I think I would be in favor of the 4-foot because of the 6-foot distancing people have to do anyway, and 3 feet kind of shoves you right in, and you don't want them so close to the flags they might step on them. So I think if it was the 4-foot, that probably would work just fine.
I would be very happy with that if the board agrees to approve that.
Yep. Shelby, I saw you had a point
Yep.
there.
Yep, I had brought this up as a concern for the flags and the individuals out there. So John, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the discussion you had and coming back here. I think 4 feet is great. My concern with the 3 feet was the Rotary is an interesting space in and of itself. I just don't want folks too close to that curb, and that they would be worried about stepping on flags, and yet they're too close to traffic, and passersby feel like someone is kind of in their face. So I think 4 feet is a great compromise. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Shelby. I just want to add, just echo those comments of both Selectman Emery and Selectman Marshall. I think the compromise makes total sense. I do think that this is for a limited period of time. I think we can, as a community, all work together. I think this is a great compromise. I do think the majority of time that I've seen folks there, it's smaller numbers, and they typically stand in the perimeter, but on the sidewalks, not on the lawn. But I think by doing this, it does allow for more people and does allow for safety. So I'm fully supportive of this as well. And either Selectman Edinburgh or Selectman Hashmi, any comments?
No, I'm comfortable with the idea. I think it's a great compromise. I would worry that 3 feet would be too narrow if you've got people trying to walk past each other. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to step out into traffic to walk around someone else who might be holding a sign. So having that, 4 to 5 foot buffer, I think will work and be effective.
Great. Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion. Do we actually have? Well, I'll try to make the motion as that we, Board of Selectmen, support the request by the Veterans Advisory Board to place flags on the Rotary for July 4th, in preparation for July 4th, and that they be spaced as discussed. Sorry,
Not disgusted. As discussed.
Sorry.
With a 4 foot border. I think we should just put in.
Okay,
with
with a
4 foot
4 foot border. Thank you, Lee.
But allowing for all 4 quadrants of the Rotary to be populated with flags.
Someone else should have made the motion.
We all added to it. And is there a second?
Emery second.
Okay, any further comments or discussion?
We are going to limit the number of volunteers that will be there placing the flags, no more than 10. And we are instructing any volunteer, they have to wear a face mask and try to practice social distancing when placing the flag. So we'll probably put a limited number on each quadrant so that there's plenty of room for the volunteers to move around. So I'm looking at no more than 10. The placement of flags would be on June the 27th at 9 a.m. The retrieval would be July the 11th at 9 a.m. My other concern is obviously how it might impact the DPW in terms of them mowing the lawn. Would that be something that I would need to get them? I will certainly alert them that that's what we're doing. But is that something that the board would be concerned with?
We can let them know, John, and
Okay.
we can put you in touch with Chris if there's a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for thinking of that, John.
Yeah,
Much appreciated.
great point.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank John. And by the way, when he talks about social distancing, he knows what he's talking about because I see him, I believe every Sunday we have a standing date, right, John? So
Yes.
so he knows what he's doing.
Perfect. Thank you, Selectman Hashmi. Okay, so roll call vote. Selectman Emery.
Emery, yes.
Okay, Selectman Marshall.
Yes.
Selectman Edinburgh.
Yes.
Selectman Hashmi.
Yes.
And Selectman Johnson, yes. So 5-0, 5 being present. John, again, thank you to the Veterans Advisory Board, and we look forward to seeing the flags on the Rotary.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, so that is all on the agenda that we had for open session. So I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
I move,
Go ahead.
you do it, Shelby.
No, you got it. You go.
Okay, we move into executive session for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate for 26 Eli Whitney Street. Do
So-
we need to
sorry.
add another location?
No, it's 56 Eli Whitney Street and
56.
31 to 33 Eli Whitney.
And I didn't see that on my thing. 31 to 33
Second.
Eli Whitney.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and as chair, I declare that an open session would be detrimental to the bargaining power of the town. So to go into executive session, we need a roll call vote. Selectman Marshall.
Yes, sorry.
Yep, Selectman Hashmi.
Yes.
Selectman Edinburgh.
Yes.
Selectman Emery.
Yes.
And Selectman Johnson, yes. So 5-0, we are now in executive session. Just as a reminder to the public, we will not be reconvening in open session.